Okay.
Good
Hello,
morning,
hello,
Good
hello.
everyone.
morning, everyone.
Welcome to
Welcome to
Astro Inklings
AstroInklings
for
for
September with
September
Pam
with
and
Pam
I.
and I.
And
And
that
that
little brat
little brat
Mercury is
Mercury is
creating havoc
creating
at the
havoc
moment
at the
with
moment with
Pam's
Pam.
speaker or her mic. And so if she looks like she's being totally
Being totally
quiet, she's
quiet,
really
really.
she's got her
She's
go
got
and
her
stop
going
sign.
stop sign.
And
And
we
we
have
have
been
been
messing around with
messing
this
around
for
with
like
this for
8
like
minutes
8 minutes
now,
now,
and we have
and
no
we have
clue.
no
I
clue.
could hear
I
her
could
at
hear her,
first, and then she was
then she
gone.
was gone.
Yeah,
And
And
gone.
I don't know
I
what to
don't know
think.
what to
We
think.
looked at
We looked at
everything.
everything.
So
So
hopefully at some
hopefully at
point
some
some
point
magical thing will
magical thing
happen
will
and her
happen
mic
and her
will come
mic
back
will come
on.
back on.
I'm
I'm
you know
you know
hopeful for that.
hopeful for that.
In the
In the
meantime,
meantime,
I'm
I
gonna,
think
I think
Pam is
Pam
probably
is
going to
probably
have to
going
do
to have
go
to
and
go
stop
and
with
stop
us
with us
and
and
facial
facial
features
features
and
and
claps
claps
or
or
oh yeah,
oh yeah,
keyboard.
keyboard.
She might be
She
able to
might be able
type.
to type.
That's a good
That's a
thing.
good thing.
Type, type,
Type,
type.
type, type.
And
And
Autumn
Autumn
is telling
is
us
telling us
echo,
echo,
echo.
echo.
So
So
I don't know
I
who
don't know
Autumn
who Autumn
is. If
if
she's
she's
yeah,
she's
Autumn's
on
mine.
my
on my
Facebook, it
Facebook,
looks
it
like.
looks
So
like. So
Autumn, hello
Autumn,
to you,
hello
and
to
I'm
you, and I'm
sorry if you're
sorry if
hearing
you're hearing
echo,
echo,
but
but
I don't know
I don't
what
know
that.
what that.
So maybe
So
you
maybe
have
you
it
have it
open on
open on
both
both
Facebook
Facebook
and
and
YouTube,
YouTube,
or you
or
have
you
it.
have it.
Uh,
Uh,
I don't know
I
what
don't
to
know
say.
what to.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mercury.
Mercury, for showing us that you're still out there and in retrograde. But good morning, everybody. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea. This morning, I have my chocolate mocha coffee with a little bit of cinnamon in it because it's freaking cold here. Tam, it was 48 degrees this morning. 48. I had to go I had to go start digging out my winter clothes. Although this weekend it's supposed to get nice, thankfully. And we'll have a return to some warmth. At least we had a return to sun yesterday. That was good. So, what we're going to be doing today, of course, is talking about September. And I'm going to set the tone here because September is what I would call it maybe a turning point month or a month that is the crux of the year and where things begin to really, you know, change for a while. And in order to see that clearly, and Tam, I'm sorry, we didn't even get to talk about like what we were going to talk about. But in order to do this, I need to take us on a tour of the outer planets. And the reason I have to do this, I don't have to do it, but I'm going to do it, is because September 1st, we jump right in to Uranus turning retrograde and Pluto in retrograde already, moving back into Capricorn. And that made me think, there are big changes going on in those outer planets. So, what does that mean? And then that day is followed by the new moon on the second for all of us here in the US, but on the third for those of you in Europe. And uh, I, in the midst of this outer planet mix thing that's going on, which I will break down for you shortly, there is also Mars in at the later degrees of Gemini, 28 degrees of Gemini at that point, in a square to Neptune. But that also puts him in conjunct with Pluto at that time, at this new moon, and a semi sextile to the planet Uranus. So, what we really need to do to kick off today's show really is to take some time to look at those outer planets. And when we look at outer planets, we're talking about the collective, right? We're talking about the bigger evolutionary cycles of time. And those cycles repeat, right? They repeat every 800 years, maybe, sometimes every 500 years. It just depends on the planetary energies. And in order to do this, what we need to understand is that the planets Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus have a cycle that they work with together, like all three of them together. And then they have cycles that they work just like Pluto, Neptune, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, Uranus, right? So we have cycles within cycles. And right now happens to be a cycle that is crescendoing, right? This is coming to this high point, and it is like instructive, I think, for us to really look at what are the human design gates, which kind of dig us into some deeper energies, some deeper wisdom, some deeper knowledge of what those gates are bringing us right now. So I know some of you out there might be some of Tam's audience and you're not as familiar with human design, but track with us here. And Tam will be, because I can't hear her, she will be tracking in the chat to hopefully keep us in a simplified form as we can during this. So look to the chat for her ideas and for her comments as I talk. Okay, and Tam, I don't know how you're going to get my attention. Maybe raise the go sign or something if you have something you want me to see. So we're going to start with Neptune because Neptune is a planet right now. So back up. Right now at that new moon, which just occurs in a week, this weekend, right? This weekend,
Yes. Yeah.
Sunday. Sunday. Wow. We have Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. We have Pluto, or will have Pluto, back at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And we have Uranus that's sitting at about 27, almost 28 degrees of the sign of Taurus. And he's, of course, going to retrograde and move backwards. Neptune is not retrograde yet, but is yes, he is retrograde. He's moving backwards through Pisces, and Pluto is also retrograde, moving backwards. So we're seeing a sort of return to the themes of things that we in the outer world have already dealt with somewhat, right? But what are those themes exactly, right? We could point to some of the chaotic things that have been happening, whether that's in the weather, the economy, or in the direction of our futures. Those three things seem to be the biggies, and they're kind of pointed out by those three planets. When we look at the gate, for example, that Neptune is in at 29 degrees of Pisces, remember Pisces is a hugely spiritual sign. And it is about our beliefs. It is about the way that we delude ourselves or, kind of blur the lines where we don't see clearly. We're looking through this fog. It's kind of idealistic. It's imagination and being able to create from the higher vision, right, from our higher view. And Neptune at the moment is in the gate 25 in our human design, which sits on the identity center, which is the center for love and direction. And the gate 25 is called the gate of spirit. So,
Mm.
i.e., spirit becomes our direction, right? It's on this very vital, in human design, we call this sometimes the soul center. It's the seat of the soul. And it is where the driver of our lives is, right? Or the driver in this case is the collective. So here are some of the key themes of Neptune. I'm just going to run those down fairly quickly. Maybe in my own shows next week or so, we'll go through what more of this is about. But the key themes of transiting Neptune are going to be about innocence and purity of spirit, right? And he's been here for a while and he's here through the end of the year. So right now, September just feels like, okay, we've got to look ahead. What is the end of the year bringing us? And what it's bringing us is this association with unconditional love. That's what we mean by purity in this case, right? The unadulterated idea of loving energy that goes out from us as it comes into us from spirit, right? So we're actually kind of in a flow of divine love. And when Neptune transits this gate, it amplifies that energy because it is the theme of spirituality already in Neptune. It is the theme of compassion in Neptune, and it's a return to a state of purity. And it's so fascinating, right? Because Pisces and Virgo are an axis already that we think of as purity, the detoxifying of our environment and our bodies in Virgo, the detoxifying of our spirit in the ethers in Neptune. And so it's about connecting to our innermost spiritual essence and then to embody unconditional love and innocence.
Mm.
That's a big ask when we're all infighting in our stupid country about politics, of all stupid things to be infighting about, right? Um, and it's quieter at this moment. There's no like big explosions going on, but that could change at any time because primarily what's being driven home to us is that we have to look for a higher purpose behind everything, right? That's this Neptune ideal. It's universal love and compassion. It's the potential, though, also for illusions and disillusionment. And Neptune's energy can sometimes just blur those lines between reality and fantasy, between truth and lies. And then it leads us to potentially becoming disillusioned with everybody. Like we don't know what's the truth anymore. It's all hidden from us. And the only way that we have to really get back to that is to come to our inner space, right? So Neptune at 25, bringing us back to this inner space. But the challenge here, there's a big challenge here, and one of them is escapism. Because of the pain,
Right.
because of the nature of the crises that are going on, or any other number of reasons, we escape. We try to run away. We run into our phones. We get into our, own little worlds, and that helps us to avoid dealing with real life challenges. But those challenges need to be solved, so we are having to work that. The biggest opportunity is healing and forgiveness. At the gate 25, it is a lovely, beautiful energy for all of that. And next would be spiritual growth. So that's the Neptune piece of this. Now, Neptune is in a sextile to Uranus, and Uranus is at gate 8, which is called the gate of contribution. And we have to remember that Uranus in this pantheon is the awakener, liberator, the shaker upper, wake up out of your illusion, Neptune, right? Wake up out of that illusion. And in a sextile, however, which is the astrological term for the relationship that they're in, there's a smooth flow. There's a harmony between the two. It's almost like Uranus is on board with what Neptune is trying to do. Neptune is on board with what Uranus is trying to do. And in all of that, it is about right now, through the end of the year, about innovation and individuality. It is almost like in this age of Aquarius, where everything becomes a little bit more monotone, right? It becomes a little more, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? The individualization of the Leo end of that spectrum becomes the group mind in Aquarius. So, the opportunity that we have at our fingertips at this moment is to really call out our own individuality, because you're here for a contribution, Tam. You're here, Teddy, for a contribution. You're here, Londa, for a contribution. Autumn, Julie, all you out there. Good morning to all of you, by the way. And what your contribution is unique to you. So, this whole time period is about radical self expression. I don't use the word radical very often, but that's what's coming up here, right? Is this need for all of us to really get into our own truth, right? It's about standing out and making your personal contribution in whatever way that is. It could be a quiet contribution. It doesn't have to be loud and proud. It could be just the person that goes around talking to people that to cheer them up, right? That it doesn't have to be your career focus or your profession, although often that's a part of it. But what is your contribution to the world, and what is the collective impact that you make as an individual? And that's the part I think sometimes we don't see. Like, we can't all be Oprahs or Bidens or people that big names out there that are impacting the world for good or ill, but impacting the world. But collectively, when each of us are living from our hearts and living from our own contribution, we make a bigger impact than those big names do. Does that make sense, Tam? Shake your head yes or go. Yeah. Yes? Go. Awesome. And yet, Uranus brings about sudden changes and breakthrough moments. And it can be unexpected. Sometimes it can be disconcerting, but this is a long term cycle, right? Of shaking us up, waking us up, kind of shaking us out of our reveries and getting us back on the spirit track. That would be kind of the short version of what's going on between Neptune and Uranus. And this is a long cycle of time. This has been activated for a while. And, they move away a little bit from one another, but they're never out of orb. And then they come back together a little bit with one another. And this goes on until we get into 2030, 20-ish, right? So through the end of the 20s here, the 2020s. And, we'll keep hearing about this as next year, both of them change signs and they'll still maintain that sextile relationship. Okay. So this is a longer term thing. Now, the challenge of Uranus here is about resistance to conformity, right? Just because we're in Aquarius and Aquarius energy is kind of like, trying to make it all an even playing field, doesn't mean that we lose our individuality in it. In fact, the challenge is to maintain your own individuality
Mhm.
and to apply that to the group,
Right.
right? Lending your own point of view, your own words, your own actions to the group. There's also instability because Uranus, he doesn't walk a straight line, right? He does not walk that straight line. He's always up and down. And wherever it is that you start to feel safe and secure, sometimes Uranus comes along and upsets that, right? And says, nope, no comfort zone for you. And he's been a little bit held back in the sign of Taurus because Taurus is a sign that loves the comfort zone. So it's almost like he has to exert more pressure. So sometimes the change comes to us in more striking ways or more shocking ways or more upsetting ways. Okay, but the idea is to get us in alignment with the spiritual, divine nature of the human being on the planet. All right. How's everybody doing out there?
We're good.
Everybody seems fine. So, the opportunities with Uranus here are about creative breakthroughs, breaking through those walls, breaking through those stuck points, stopping points, and getting beyond where you've always thought you could be. This gives you freedom to be authentic. This is the authentic you showing up, right? And that means embrace innovation. It means connect to like-minded individuals. It means stay flexible. Anytime you try to stay stuck, it isn't going to work. And also channel that rebellious energy of Uranus into creativity, right? You don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's not what's being called for. What's being called for is almost a redirection of your energy into what's really true as a contribution that you want to make on the planet. And that's what the gate 8 is all about, contribution, right? What do you want to contribute? So now we got to talk about Pluto because Neptune is also in a long-term sextile to Pluto. So long-term that almost everybody out there listening to me has Neptune sextile Pluto in their natal charts. Long term, right? We got to think many years. And we're coming toward an end of that, but not for several years yet, but we're coming to the end of that. And where's Pluto in all of this? Well, Pluto today, or on September 1st, which is what we're really talking about here, is moving into the 29th degree, 29 degrees, 59 minutes, like the very last second of the sign of Capricorn, where he had spent time from 2008. And what was going on during that period of time, as all of you look back, is a huge dissolution, disintegration, a falling down of all of the systems that we have, right?
Oh,
All of our cherished institutions. I mean, sometimes the very fabric of what we thought we built, in our case, our country on, right? Our constitution under attack, our way of dealing in the economy, because what's being exposed here, I mean, this isn't punitive. Like, no God up there just said, "Oh, you humans, let's just like throw the bowling ball at you and knock you in all different directions." It's about where we have created unsustainability in the world, in our structures and in our institutions. And Pluto is in the gate 60 right now, which is actually, down on the root center. And so it's a format energy. So the format energies in human design mean they're setting the stage for action, right? Setting the stage for what comes next. And that gate is called the gate of conservation. And sometimes in quantum human design, we call it conservation. In traditional human design, we call it limitation. So Pluto is really causing us to look more narrowly in order to discover what things that we can take forward with us into Aquarius, because he'll move back into Aquarius in November. And what can we take forward with us into Aquarius that's sustainable? And what must we leave behind that's no longer sustainable? And at the same time, Pluto is also working with Uranus, right? They're still in a relationship. They're in an inconjunct, which is a very difficult place to be, right? One, Pluto being very forward looking and saying, okay, you can take that, you can't take that. It's like going on a trip, Tam. right? You can only fit so much in your suitcase,
Right.
right? So you take the essentials, the things that you really need that you couldn't live without. But you can't take everything.
Nope.
You can't take your whole house. So
Nope.
you have to fit it in a suitcase. That's what Pluto's doing here. What
Yep.
can you take forward with you that works for the whole of humanity, the most of humanity, right? The group of humanity, the collective, and what can you leave behind that is no longer suitable, that no longer makes any sense
Right.
in the world that we're in. So conservation is about transformation through limiting what you take forward with you, right? So you take your suitcase with you to Italy or France or wherever you're headed off to, and you learn to live within those limits, right? And if you've forgotten something crucial, you can always go to the store and buy it if it was something that you really had to have that you forgot or something like that. But if you limit what you take, you have a great chance of being able to be more sustainable as you move into the future. So that's what Pluto's doing. And he's also confronting our resistance, our inner resistance, right?
Mm.
You see the clash uh, of peoples, of ideals, right? In all the countries around the world. So not just the U.S. I just know more about what's going on here because I live here. But there's a clash of ideals, a clash of ideas about how we move forward, right? So somehow with Pluto here, we have to confront where we resist change. And we're resisting it because we feel like it's too limiting or it's restrictive, maybe. So we have to break down old patterns and old beliefs within ourselves individually, but also collectively. And then we can start fresh. We can transform, right? It's not exactly a brand new beginning, but it is a more sustainable future that we're looking for. So rebirth from constraints, right? When we limit, we go farther. And Pluto's cycle operates in big cycles of time. So it's not always like Uranus changes where they come fast and furious. It's more insistent pressure to change. So we're looking at this, and that brings us intense pressure, both in ourselves, but also collectively. And this is very evident as we move into September, because right there on the first day of the month, these planets become very activated by changing, and then followed by the new moon that also activates these planets in some interesting ways. So intense pressure, and then we have resistance to change. I feel like the Borg in the Star Trek, right? Resistance is futile. But rather than going to that in a negative way, allow the changes, become the swan, right? That gracefully moves through changes. And deep transformation of perhaps your own life. I'm sure of that. But also the collective will take place. And then if we take a look at the current cycle with Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, then what we see is this deep spiritual transformation that is really running through all of us. But over time, it's so slow sometimes,
Yeah.
punctuated by big things
Can't see.
that we don't really see it. It's like geologic time, Tam. You
Yeah.
know how, over the course of time we see this little piece of what of climate change perhaps, or of earthquakes and how they change the world. But when you look over geologic time, a lot has happened. But we just don't always see it because we only live, 80, 90 years in this reality, right? So deep spiritual transformation has been a part. Stop. Comment. Would you say this is a time for receiving a plan for a new project, offering it to a collective audience, offering once a month sessions to receive group healing sessions that all proceeds go to charity? No, I would say only if that is your passion. I wouldn't say that's in general a theme, but for you, Londa, that may very well be a theme. And I think if that is what you love, if that's what you want as your contribution, then absolutely. But not everybody's going to feel that same thing because all of you have Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus in Aquarius and Pisces and Taurus in different places in the chart and in different configurations. So someone else may be feeling a different thing, but if that's what you're being called to, then absolutely that is what you're transforming to. It makes perfect sense, right? Even the words you use sort of follow the lines of what we're talking about here, right? And Christine Buckingham says she calls it auto incorrect. Auto incorrect. That's great. Um, and in the end, each of us has to decide for ourselves what our contribution is going to be in all of this. But in the process, there's this dissolution of old structures going on, and that's really impactful, but also sort of unsettling for us as humans, right? We kind of get used to the way things are, and we kind of like the way things are. And it's scary to think about how the world would be different if we did this other thing differently. And there is underneath it all. And literally, we can go back to the 60s, Tam, at the time you were born, mid 60s, maybe, even early 60s, maybe even late 50s, where we began this revolutionary energy. And some of the things that popped up that time was a resistance to war or, being against the Vietnam War, racial issues. We're still dealing with these things because we're still in this collective unconscious awakening, right? It starts with a big bang and then it goes a little silent. Then it comes up with another big bang. Maybe we have that big bang with us for a little while, and then it goes back into a little bit of retreat. And then it comes back, and we're about to come back up to this height of this cycle that should represent to all of us the closing end of that cycle, the cycle of revolution and craziness that, started, people thinking about, well, what could be, um, has had different, expressions, even the idea of nuclear war is a part of this, like using nukes became an issue, right, in 1962, right, where Russia wanted to park
Right.
off the
Yes.
coast of Florida
Yep.
in Cuba. So that's also in our consciousness during this time. So we really have to really go through an awakening here. Neptune represents the collective unconsciousness, and with its sextile to Pluto, there's an awakening of the collective soul, if you will, and it's being stirred up and transformed, right? And it could relate to things like societal movements, global shifts, a deepened awareness of how we're all interconnected and what happens in the USA is impacting, little tiny Lebanon clear on the other side of the world, or some little island in the south west or the southern islands like Samoa, Guam. I mean, illustrating big things affect the globe, and we're finding that more and more. Environmental consciousness, social justice, the need for healing collective wounds are all strongly highlighted during this cycle of these three planets. And so all the struggles we see, I guess my bottom line here is that all the struggles that we're seeing are all a part of this bigger cycle that are leading us to becoming more conservative, not as a political word here, but maybe I'll change that word to being better stewards of our resources, of one another, of the earth, maybe being more sustainable minded. Like that, the things that we create from here need to be able to stand the test of time. All right, so that's how that goes. And as we look at the bigger themes again, we're looking at rebirth and renewal. We're looking at revolutionary spirituality.
Mhm.
I think I said it as radical spirituality before, but there. We're looking at collective shifts. All right. Now, fast forward to the first day or two of September, we go to the new moon. The new moon is in Virgo and it sits at about 11 degrees, I believe. Hold on, let me pull my little charty warty here. It is at 11 degrees, 4 minutes of Virgo, which puts it not in an exact opposition to Neptune because it's a little far away, but remember, it's the collective force of Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. So we get this little handle on this little basket. So this collective revolution energy of the Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus relationships being held by the new moon, right? It's not exact, but it's being held. That's the pattern. It kind of looks like a bucket, if you will, or a basket. And now at the new moon, we put Mars into the mix. So now we have Mars um, in a square with Neptune, in an inconjunct with Pluto, and in a semi-sextile with Uranus in Taurus. Now, you don't get caught up in the words, right? Don't get too caught up in the words. Essentially, what we're saying here is that there is an interaction going on with our inner planets representing you, with our outer planets that are representing everybody, right? The collective. And Mars is an activator. He's a catalyst. He's a jump starter, right? Your battery breaks down and you put those little clamps on and start, the car. It's a catalyst. It's a catalyzing energy. And Mars will be at the 28th, almost 29th degree of Gemini that day at the new moon. And he will square Neptune and Pisces. So if we look at that one first, we're going to find at this new moon, we possibly have confusion and misdirection. And that square, because the square is pressure to tension for us to, find a solution to what it is that we're feeling. And there's uncertainty in that. There is a certain amount of uncertainty going through the collective and maybe even misdirecting our energy. But Mars in Gemini seeks to take action through communication, learning, adapting, and then Neptune clouds this drive a little bit, but leading us maybe to the potential of misunderstandings, a little bit of fogginess in your thinking, maybe a lack of clear direction. But you have to have a plan, a strategy. And that's what Mars wants. That's what Mars does, kind of demanding the strategy. There's also the potential for deception and disillusionment. This whole thing can trigger this feeling of things aren't what they seem, which is what I'm trying to reveal to you all this morning, I guess. If I distilled this down, I'm trying to help you see what's behind the curtain, what's behind this in terms of the bigger, larger cycles of time and the rightness of it all, even though it doesn't feel good when we're in it in this moment. But when we get to the end of this in several years hence, we look back and we're going to see how all of the steps led to this change in our way of being with one another. However, on a higher level, this Mars square Neptune can bring us spiritual action. It could be channeled. We can channel this energy into spiritual pursuits or creative endeavors, letting inspiration take us where, the natural flow goes. We can, other like spiritual exploration is another word we could use. So use the energy of Mars in that square during the new moon with Neptune to get on a strong spiritual footing, right? To make it your foundation. Now, Mars in Gemini in conjunct Pluto in Capricorn, that's a whole nother thing. That's power struggles and frustration, right? So we might be feeling that frustration energy. It's a tension that is difficult to resolve. It's not like a trine or even a square where the solution is visible, but we may just not want, we either go too far into it or we're just reluctant to do the solution. This is one where we're just not clear about what the solution is because Mars wants to act quickly and decisively in Gemini, especially. But Pluto in Capricorn now at that point kind of resists that. It represents more of the deeper, slower, insistent, persistent changes that need to take on, the transformational changes that are forces that are related to power and control and structures and big cycles of time. So this can manifest in frustration for us because Mars wants us to do. Pluto says, not so fast. Got to have a strategy, got to have a plan, got to execute it one step at a time. And there are some things maybe you need to let go of, some things that you have to leave behind. And it tells us that adjustments are required of each of us in order to move forward. This is a loaded new moon. It didn't look like it at first. Did it to you, Tam? I mean, when I first looked at the new moon, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good new moon. There's no conjunction, blah, blah, blah. Nope. As I started deconstructing the chart, I went, oh my goodness, right? This is big. So adjustments are required for us in order to make the changes that are necessary to go through the bigger transformations. Only you can change you, right? And only you can adopt the necessary characteristics and take the necessary action to move forward to your new beginning. That new beginning is in Virgo, right? Virgo is a very, I mean, I think it, we all know about its perfectionism and all of that, but Virgo is really good at helping us to see what it is necessary for us to do in order to revolutionize or to heal, to become more holistic in our approach in our lives. Right. So Virgo's a sign, I would say, of holism, holistic healing, holistic being, holistic health, holistic fill in the blank. Right. So the adjustments are required here. It's not a time to push aggressively forward, but more strategically and recalibrating your actions as you come up against blocks or if you come up against something in your life. In the face of obstacles, what you need to do is stop. Get your stop sign up, honey. Stop, readjust, reassess, and then go. Right? Stop, then go. So Mars and Gemini, then semi-sextile Uranus and Taurus. A semi-sextile is a minor aspect, but because of the full weight of everything that's going on, I'm not ignoring it. A semi-sextile is a 30-degree relationship between planets. And the semi-sextile is often a place where we have to cooperate, right? Because they're next door neighbors, but they're totally different. Like your next door neighbor is different from you. They have different family values, maybe different ways of being, but you have to cooperate, right? If you're working together on a neighborhood project, you got to cooperate. So there's subtle opportunities with Mars in Gemini and Uranus in Taurus for opportunities to break through, right? To you know. A significant maybe but small opportunity to break through in some way, innovating, right? Maybe it's an unexpected breakthrough, like you didn't see it coming and boom, there's the solution. So Uranus and Taurus is going to seek to revolutionize stability, values, our finances, our material resources, really more than just finances. And Mars and Gemini brings that quick adaptable energy to the plate here. So although the aspect itself is not overtly powerful, I think it is creating small windows of opportunity for us to adjust, to change, to move forward. So don't let anybody tell you that this new moon isn't powerful, right? This new moon. And it's like upon us. We're already, I know you all have got to be feeling this, right? Something coming up in the works. The new moon will be in Virgo, focusing on a practical new beginning. What's the most practical, most empowering, most holistic thing that you can do to change your life? Wherever Virgo is in your chart, that is where your new beginning is. There's tension now because there's going to be these relationships with Mars and Neptune and Pluto and Uranus that are all kind of engaged here. And those planetary aspects have been in play. They're not necessarily new, but every new moon that comes by now is going to be, especially from now to the end of the year, is going to be a call for us to make some significant inroads in expressing the truth of who we are. All right. Any questions? As a Tam, a practical new beginning is upon you. Find Virgo in your chart. So let me show you Virgo in a chart. Here is, I'm going to see where I am. This is what Virgo looks like in your chart. It looks like an M with an arm coming around to cross it. And there we go. It's a little bit clearer there. That's what Virgo, the symbol, looks like. And all of you, it'll be on the outer wheel of the chart if you're getting a chart like this from me. And all of you have Virgo. There's nobody missing it. You have it. It might not have a lot of planets in it. It might not have any planets in it. It might be full of planets. But that's the uniqueness here, right? So we can talk in general terms about a new moon or about how all of these things are impacting you. But to personalize it, you have to actually look to your own chart. You have to see what it is that's going on there. And if you need help with that, we can help you with that, right? Tam, do you do astrology readings? Yeah. So we do astrology readings that can help you determine what the transits are and how they're affecting you. And Tam says, nuts, it's in my 13th house. You mean 12th house? No, 13th? Are you looking? Just kidding. I love it. If we're going to have 13 signs, which we definitely should look ahead at that, then we're going to have a 13th house. right? I don't know what part of our lives that would represent. I don't even want to go there. Maybe our healing abilities. I don't know. So, okay. So new moon. Now let's look at the bigger part of the month. And Tam, I am so sad that you can't speak. That just irritates me, Mr. Mercury. Um, right after we have this new moon, which we've pretty much exhausted everything I wanted to talk about. Is there something I've missed talking about there that you wanted to talk about? No? I guess I could have gone, yeah, no, no. Because that same week, right, the same first week of September, Mars is going to move out of Gemini and into Cancer. And I almost want to say make all the changes that you can make with the energy of Mars and Gemini, because once he moves into Cancer, things slow down. Right now, we put a fire planet in a water sign. We have the potential for a lot of steam, but unless you can put steam to work for you, it goes nowhere. It's just being, evaporated off into the air. So Mars in Cancer slows things down. Not in a bad way either, because what is Cancer's big thing? It's about security. It's about having a growth potential that's actually moving us in a nurturing sort of way forward in our lives. It's intuitive. It's connected to the moon, so it's also emotional. And now we have this Mars energy moving into the moon's territory, and we can get a lot of frustration. We can get a lot of potential confrontation and conflict. But if we harness the steam that's being generated and we can put it to work for us in a strategy, a movement forward, we can satisfy Mars's inclination to get all steamed up. Like how I did that? All steamed up over his being in Cancer. And this is important for another reason, one that maybe is very invisible to us at the moment. And that is as Mars moves through the sign of Cancer, he's going to move to all the way through the sign of Cancer. But at 17 degrees Cancer, that is where he will retrograde back to from Leo in December through February of 2026, 5, right? 2025, not 2026. So pay attention. Pay attention to what is, steaming up, what is being generated over these next few months in the Cancer sector of your chart, because Mars will move backwards through this sign again as we get into more like the first of the year. And also then if Cancer look through the Leo part of your chart, but again, that we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. But I like to call your attention to these things because the hints will start piling up, right? They'll start piling up on September 4th when Mars moves into Cancer. So start paying attention, right? And especially when he gets beyond the 17-degree mark, which I could look up that date for everybody, but I don't know that we need to know that at the second. And then as we go through the month, Mercury moves into Virgo. So our words get more organized, more perfectionistic, more detailed, perhaps. Mercury is the ruling planet for Virgo. So remember, he was retrograde. He went retrograde in Virgo. He moved back into Leo. And then at that point, he's moved forward again back into Virgo. So he's really on the path to complete his whole retrograde cycle, which he will do later that week. And then we're done with that retrograde. Yeah. Yay! All right, let me see. Tam. Was there anything? Kathleen Mallory. Oh my gosh. I haven't seen you in forever. Welcome. It's good to see you, my friend. TD Hawk, now I don't hear Tam again. Oh, they're hearing you? Oh my gosh. That's so bizarre.
If I say hello, can everybody hear me? Give me a yes or a no.
I see your lips moving, but I have no idea what you said. So I'm just going to trust that everybody else heard you. Okay. So Tam, I'm going to shut up for a minute and I'm going to let you talk about something that drew your attention about this month. I think I know what you're going to go to.
They actually can, like, yes, 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 they all hear me, but Janet can't. So this is going to be really weird.
Don't mess with it.
Janet's asking me to, I totally didn't expect this. So she's asking me, what do I want to bring your attention to? So I was looking at September 20th. On the 18th, we have the full moon eclipse in Pisces, which has its own story, of course, but I'm really looking at the 20th, which is an astrological yod and a grand trine. The trine is with the sun, Pluto, and Uranus. And of course, whenever we have a trine, it's harmonious. It feels really good, and it's sort of an opportunity, I believe, for healing. These are actually in earth signs. All of these will be, we've got Uranus in Taurus, Pluto in Capricorn, and the sun in Virgo. So a good opportunity for grounding in and setting foundations on that day, which is where we'll still be in that eclipse energy. So that's the time period that I'm looking for in September. You know me, I like to keep it super simple. For those who are new to astrology, we're going to let Janet pop back in, and she's probably going to talk about the eclipse next. So let's see if she will. Okay. Hold tight as I switch this back off.
Okay, so Tam's been talking about September 20th. Is that what I'm getting? The Pluto opposition Sun or Sun opposition Pluto? Okay. So did you talk at all about the full moon eclipse on the 17th, 18th? Okay, so let's actually talk a little bit about that one because it is a partial eclipse. So, that kind of means that it's activating, but it's not overly impactful. But I want to talk about it because it's the first eclipse. It is a seed planting time for us because the eclipse is going to be across Virgo and Pisces. And right now, for the last year and a half, all of our eclipses have been across Aries and Libra. So it's the first of a new series that's birthing, right? That's telling us that at some point in the next few months, our nodes are going to shift out of Aries and Libra and into Pisces and Virgo. And it is, as the first in a series of what's to come, it's kind of pay attention to what's being prompted in your life. Where are you being prompted or nudged or even pushed to make improvements in your life? Like, are you feeling a push when we get to that? That is going to be on the 18th or 17th, excuse me, at 7:35 p.m. For the West Coast, 10:35 p.m. for the East Coast, and on September 18th at 2:35 in the morning for those of you in UTC time. And because it's a first, right? And pay attention to the little seeds that are popping in because you could be hearing about what is in your own life, what it is that you need to change across that Pisces Virgo axis. And so again, right, some of the things we already said, find Virgo in your chart. Exactly opposite of Virgo is Pisces. And the full moon partial lunar eclipse might tell you what it is you need to leave behind in order to move forward, right? And that drumbeat will get louder as we go into 2025 and into later, even into 2026. So be paying attention. And when I looked at what the gates are in human design that the eclipse is at, those are interesting gates because the Piscean eclipse will be at gate 36. The moon will be in 36, which is on your solar plexus, which is called the gate of turbulence. Sometimes it's called the gate of crisis. In quantum human design, we call it the gate of exploration. So it is an energy that is sort of reaching out for experiences that are different, that are new, that are exciting. But it has a certain amount of restlessness and boredom attached to it. So sometimes it's an energy that will trigger us to leap out into new territory. So we have to be very circumspect around this full moon, that we're not like upending the entire life to make a change, right? If you need to make changes, do so, but do so incrementally, maybe even with a plan. Um, because the turbulence, the crisis energy, it's still there, even though we've renamed it in quantum human design to something else. Exploration is okay, right? Let's look at our options, but don't just out of boredom or restlessness or frustration leap at something that then might have, negative consequences for you later on. Now, the sun is also in a trigger gate. It is at that full moon. It's in the gate 6, which is called impact. Boom. It's also called peace. Peace, peaceful impact, right? So that axis then is kind of showing us where by moving forward consciously, we can create more peace in our lives and more peace in our relationships, even because this does have a relationship orientation to it. It's where we can use diplomacy, maybe even grace in some respects, to create changes that are more people friendly, right? More peaceful in how we get along in our relationships and in our communities, in our country, in our world, right? So it has bigger impacts. But it's really important because it is, like I said, the first in a series of eclipses that will be across this. And just as the next eclipse after that will be in Libra, and it will be kind of one of the first endings that we'll come to with the Libra Aries axis, where we're closing down the lessons that we've been learning through Aries Libra and opening up to the next ones with Pisces and Virgo. So it's a very both the moons this month are highly energized. They're highly energized moons. There's a lot of meaning behind the moons this month, right? Let's see. Later in the month, of course, we have the autumn equinox. That'll happen on the 22nd at 5:44 a.m. West Coast time. So literally all of us are going to have it on the same day. That is when the sun comes to 0 degrees of Libra, and we begin Libra season, closing out, if you will, the Virgo season of perfecting, of seeing what changes need to be made, lead to the Libran balancing, rebalancing of things in our lives. And on that day, Venus moves into Scorpio. So funny, right? Venus is the ruler of Libra, but she leaves Libra on the same day that the sun moves into Libra. So now she goes into deeper territory later in the month. We become more investigative, more passionate, perhaps, in our relationships, more depth required of us in issues of love and money and self worth and economy wise. I'd like to say that's going to have a very positive impact. I'm not so sure. We'll just keep our fingers crossed. That's a good one, Tam. And then Mercury moves into Libra later in the month. So you can see he's actually speeding up now, moving more on his regular trajectory, timeline wise, of every 3 weeks or so, moving through a sign. And so we shift toward the end of the month into this Libran energy of balancing, harmonizing, being more diplomatic, tactful, relationship, money also there, because Venus is the ruler here, we still are dealing somewhat with finances. I really kind of have a feeling that the economic news is going to be maybe slanted a little more positive than it is going to be negative. I don't know if that's sustainable and long lasting or not. We'll have to wait and see. But there could be something big that happens new that's good, but not necessarily long lasting. We'll have to see what happens there. All right. Now, since they can hear you, Tam, what would you like to say? We've got 5 minutes left. Is there something about the energy almanac that you would like to bring up, or
I assume that everybody can hear me. I apologize for this crazy Mercury retrograde where I couldn't participate. So I want to let you know that the Energy Almanac early bird specials begin on September 1. That's 4 days away. And we're super excited. For 10 days, you can order the book and I'll pay the shipping on that. So watch my Facebook pages, if you would, please, for the announcement of that. I want to say to everybody, and Janet will have to come back and listen to this at the end. If you don't think astrology is affecting you, wow, This month of August has been off the charts where I'd be pulling my hair out one day and crying my head off the next. And I would have to literally pull up my chart and my phone and look and see that, oh my goodness, this is what's in the air. Pluto trine Pluto. Or this is in the air. My moon, my natal moon conjunct the current moon. And it just knocks my socks off time and again to realize how powerfully astrology is affecting all of us. So tell your friends, like literally tell your friends to give astrology a shot because it really does explain a lot of what is going on in your day-to-day life. So I will ask Janet to listen to my little story later today. For now, I just want to tell you the Energy Almanac is coming soon. Thank you.
Oh my God, I heard you.
Cut it out. You did not.
I did too just now because you know what I did? I went over to Facebook and I unmuted the Facebook feed, but then I was hearing it
Oh my
two
God.
places and I'm like, why am I hearing her in two places?
That's funny. I'm getting a question here. Pam Zaruba says she loves the almanac. That's hilarious. And TD Hawk says, can I purchase outside of Facebook? Always, yes. I have a website called theenergyalmanac.com. And September 1st, the pages that represent the Energy Almanac will have the book available to you. So yes, Janet, I just told a quick little story that about astrology, and you'll have to listen to that later when you can actually hear it.
Okay. I cannot believe that. And you know, all I did was mute and unmute my laptop,
Oh, sorry.
but it wasn't muted in the first place. So what?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Just
Me
Mercury
neither.
retrograde, you know.
Those little shenanigans, right? Really?
Shenanigans for sure.
Shenanigans.
Yeah.
All right. So, let me see. Any last questions from anybody before I know I threw a lot out there this morning. Um, and because Tam and I really couldn't hear each other, sorry,
Just run
Tam,
with
if
it.
I threw it at you too, because I hadn't gotten to run it past you. Um, Pam Zaruba says she loves the almanac. I love that.
Yeah, yay.
And Tamara says me too. And lots of people love that. And there's some interesting behind the scene things going on.
There is some interesting behind the scene things going on. There sure
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. That we'll reveal
Soon.
soon. Someday soon. Someday coming to a broadcast near you.
Yes,
All
exactly.
right. Well, Tam, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Everyone, I apologize for the shenanigans that Mercury put us through here where we couldn't even sync up. Tam, it looks like you and I will be back together maybe September. Well, now you're going on vacation, but September 25th, are you back?
Yes, I'm back that week. Yep.
Okay, good. So because that October 1st is actually on that next Wednesday or Tuesday is the second, excuse me. And so the 25th of September, we'll be back to talk about October.
Yahoo.
Yay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Go, go. Oh, a card. Maybe, yeah, we have time to pull a card. So, Pam, since you mentioned that, what kind of deck would you like me to pull from? An angel deck, a dragon deck, a Pleiadian deck, a psychic deck, a animal deck, wisdom deck? Pick, 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 pick. Tell me, tell me, tell me. Quick. Londa says, call me. Me. You want me to call you Londa. Okay, great, 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 great. Okay, well, I'm going to pick a card and hopefully let's just see how close we are. I'm going to pick a Dreamweaver's card. Pam says dragon. I see that now. And the dragons were sitting right there too. Tam, what is that picture behind you? Mm. What is that artwork behind you there? That's so beautifully.
Not pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Here's our dragon for you, Pam. We have an orange gold dragon from Arcturus. It says opens you to knowledge for the new golden age, which is what we are creating. That's what I did not say this because it's kind of way out there. But that's what we are. Why it's so important for you all to stick to what you need to do for yourself, for your contribution that you're making to this world is because We're moving toward a new golden age. Not that I know that we'll all live through it, but it's coming. So it carries the energy of the future. Be a guiding light. Isn't that a
I
beautiful
actually
card?
signed up for the golden age, so I plan to be here.
Good. There you go. I am likely not coming back to this planet.
Ah, Janet.
I might.
All right, come
I
on.
say that with my personality or with my ego, but
Hi, Shazzy. Thanks for popping in from Australia.
woo! Okay, so we have, what did I say this was? An orange gold dragon. Is this a ninth dimensional girl? Yee, she's seventh dimensional. And let's read about this one because I like the colors, I like the thoughts here. And Arcturus is one of those gateway stars. It's a fixed star, and it really represents a gateway that is where where we've accessed as souls this solar system, but where others also access our solar system. Arcturus is one of the most advanced star systems in this galaxy and a prototype of Earth's future. Awesome seventh dimensional orange gold dragons from Arcturus come to us when we are ready to become a walking master and help to usher in the new golden age. Perfect. When a spiritual army of these dragons moves to a place, they stimulate great evolutionary change in all that they touch. They are flowing into Earth now to help us during the exciting years ahead. It is not by chance that you have incarnated during this extraordinary 20-year period when our planet is undergoing a double dimensional shift. Earth needs spiritual leaders and light bearers. These dragons are blazing their light towards you, for it holds the vision of our fifth dimensional future. They are inspiring you to do your part for the new golden age on Earth. Receiving this card indicates that it is time for you to stand in your power and fully fulfill your destiny. Allow the orange gold dragons from Arcturus to enter your energy fields and breathe into you the vision of Earth as it will be. They will give you the strength, the wisdom, and knowledge that you will need for the transformation ahead. You have much to do and many people to help, and a beautiful seventh dimensional orange gold dragon from Arcturus will stay by your side as long as you need it. Be a guiding beacon to light the way for many. Powerful card, powerful dragon. I love it. Thank you, Pam, for that suggestion,
Mhm.
as I think it was probably a very good choice, right? Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, Tam. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next month, and I will see all of the rest of you on Friday. Take care, everyone.